thought you'd catch it anyway.
Hi guys, Tap here. Hope you're all keeping well. Very excited to be back with you on the channel this week because I have a very special car and a very special guest as well. Behind me you can see a McLaren, undoubtedly a McLaren, a Sport Series McLaren. You might think at first glance, oh, is it a 570? Not quite. Some key differences to this one. You'll notice there that huge scoop on top, massive rear wing at the back. It is indeed the incredibly rare McLaren 620R. If you see another one of these on the road out and about, I'll be very impressed because there's probably only a handful of these in the UK, perhaps 20, 30. Nobody really knows, but it is not a lot. And this thing is essentially a road legal race car designed for going around the track as quickly as possible. And believe me, it does. I've been out with a driver around the track. What an experience that was at Goodwood. We've got some footage of that later on in the video. But we're going to be going out for a drive in this thing, talking about what makes this car different to the 570S, why it's in a different league, and just walking around the car and really taking it all in and looking at all the bits and the differences between this and a more standard McLaren Sport Series car. But it is a phenomenal bit of kit. I mean, just looks amazing today. Abyss Black is the name of the colour. It really pops in the sun. So much carbon fibre on this. I'm surprised there's actually any carbon fibre left elsewhere in the world with the amount that's on this. But it's a stunning car. So, let's go. Okay, so we are out in the 620R. Pretty exciting times because it's an awesome bit of car. Absolutely no escaping the brilliance of this machine, right? So we've got to look at the Sport Series in more detail. That's where this car fits in terms of the McLaren lineup. Now the Sport Series, Super Series and the Ultimate Series are kind of being blown up at the moment. They're in the process of being blown up, but the legacy McLarens, you had the Sports, Super and the Ultimate. So Sports being your 570Ss, your Super being the 720s, 650s, the likes of those, and the Ultimate being the crazy P1s, the Sennas and the things that you're never gonna, well, I'm never gonna get in. There's plenty of people out there that are blessed to get in them, but not me. But let's look at the Sport Series specifically. So this car sits at the absolute top of that bracket. In the Sport Series, you started with the 540C, I believe you were saying for a specific market, right?
Largely for the Asian market, for tax reasons, I gather.
Right, so there you go. That steel brakes are standard. And I don't know how many of those they sold, but I don't imagine it was that many. I think a lot of people went for the 570S. So of course you had the 570S, which is what I've got, coupe and Spider versions of that. Then next up, they released the 600. The LT and the Spider version of that too, and that's the one with the exhausts in the middle on the deck above the engine that kind of shoots flames. You see a lot of videos of that on YouTube. And then you've got, I should also add, you've got the 570 GT4. There's a few of those knocking around, and then at the very top you've got this bonkers thing, which is the 620R, which is what we're in now, number 201 of 225 worldwide. So as I said earlier, only a handful of these, and so really fortunate, quite blessed to be out in one, and they're definitely a lot of fun. So we are going to chat to Steve about why he's driving this car, why he's lucky enough to be driving this car, and talk about some of the stats. But I need to just pop this in here. Steve is a fully qualified racing driver, phenomenal driving capability. I've been out with him, I've been taught by him a little bit at Millbrook. He does offer tuition as well, so I'll put a link in the description. Do feel free to utilise his incredibly agile race tuition should you need to, but really good fun and highly recommended. But his racing career is pretty long. I think started with, what did you start with, TVRs, right?
Yeah, straight into the deep end. Yeah.
And how were they in terms of fun, reliability?
As a race car, an amazing bit of kit. You're talking about a fairly big engine, naturally aspirated V8 with a body that was under 800 kilos total weight. So no traction control, no ABS, no power steering, proper seat of the pants stuff.
Amazing. And I used to love the Cerberus, right? That for me was a great car. You don't see many of those because apparently they all rusted away eventually, I think, right?
Really? There was metal on them?
Yeah, some in all the wrong places, I think. But yeah, then you've driven all sorts, right? Ferraris, Porsches.
Yeah.
McLaren. Why McLaren? Why did I think it's fair to say you like McLaren the most, right?
Well, let's face it. When you're looking at the top supercars in the marketplace, you're not going to get a bad one, are you? They're all going to be very good, but they're going to have different elements to them, different nuances that perhaps float your boat as a driver more than the next, and that's what will lead you to the choice that you make. As a McLaren owner yourself, you've obviously made that choice too. For me, I just love the looks. I think they're incredible. The carbon tubs just give it that extra dimension and extra element, not just of safety, but of handling and rigidity, torsional rigidity in particular. And as a driver, I just think the McLarens drive incredibly well. They're Jekyll and Hyde. You know, we're pootling along in a nigh-on race car on the road, and, well, is it comfortable enough for you?
You cannot believe all the things this car can do. I mean, the 570 alone, it's so comfortable around the roads. The suspension is almost wizardry from a McLaren perspective, and then you put it on track and it just comes alive. I'd say the sweet spot with McLarens is probably above 50, 60 miles an hour, right? That's when they really open up and come alive, right?
I think with your 570 you might be right. The beauty about this 620 and the roof scoop is actually you don't have to be going at ridiculous speeds on the road to get that connection, to get that engagement and that viscerality. The roof scoop adds such a dimension. I don't know if your cameras will pick it up, but if I just lift off in a minute, you can just hear that. You know, that's at 35 miles an hour. You're getting that whoosh, you're just getting that feeling. It's another dimension. And that for me just adds more engagement and driver involvement compared with your 570.
Let's talk some stats about this thing. It's the M838 engine, right? 3.8 litre, twin turbo.
Absolutely.
V8.
Yep.
Over square. That Nissan DNA, I think, in this engine, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Tom Walkinshaw originally designed it for a Nissan race car, is my understanding, and then McLaren took that design and developed it with Ricardo into the engines that you've seen in all of the McLarens up to and including the 620R.
Yeah. So the numbers, right? We've got to speak about the numbers. So 620 further Starken, but let's just call it BHB because that's what people do, right? Same difference, right?
Yeah.
Torque, a little bit more?
620 Newton meters of torque as well.
Do you know what that is in pound foot, or will I have to do an after video subtitle for this?
I think, only quote me if I'm correct, but I think it's 457 pound foot of torque.
Which is a bit more than the 414 I think you get in the 570.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
And you do notice it. I mean, the thing that really sets this one apart for me is the weight. So the 570S is already a very light car, 1,400 kilos thereabouts, I think. They've gone even more mad on the weight saving on this, to the point by which they've got a thinner windscreen on it, I understand, slightly thinner to save weight, right?
Yes, they have, absolutely.
So how much does this one weigh then?
The dry weight of this car is roughly 1,278 kilos, something of that order.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
which is nothing.
No, it's over 100 kilos lighter than your standard 570S.
Yeah.
And you can do other things. So this has got the adaptive hydraulic suspension system, so very similar to what you enjoy in your 570.
Right.
It is calibrated slightly differently in that normal mode in this car on your suspension or your handling mode, as McLaren call it, is probably the equivalent to sport mode in your 570.
Right.
But most people I talk to tend to drive it in sport mode with the handling system anyway.
That's, yeah, I was the same with 570, that all the way with the ESC off. Not fully off, but...
Yeah, in dynamic mode.
Dynamic mode, that's the one, yeah.
Hit the button there, you'll see the traction light come off, and actually that gives you dynamic.
I do notice that if you do have the full TC on, it just kind of saps the power a little bit when you're not expecting it sometimes.
More so in the 570 than the 620.
Gotcha.
Because it's calibrated differently.
Gotcha.
But you can, in the 620, elect for the pure motorsport suspension system, which of course is slightly lighter again than the adaptive hydraulic.
Yeah.
So that can reduce more weight. I didn't want to go for that because you can't have the lift system with it.
Right.
And given that this car is lower already than the 570 and has a bigger front end splitter, just getting in and out of a garage forecourt is a challenge, unless you've got lift. Yeah,
and I use the lift on mine all the time, even when I probably don't need to, but it's better to be safe than be faced with a large scrapey bill at the M&A Coachworks place. But yeah, I think for me that this car is just so raw, and the noises that you hear when you're driving along in it, the turbo whine, the whistle, that kind of almost like a dump valve recirculation type noise, isn't it?
Yeah, it is almost like that. It's partly the roof scoop. The turbo boost system in this car has got a different mapping as well, and you'll notice that how the car pulls away, not just the horsepower and the torque.
So I've test driven a lot of cars in my time. And the likes of Porsche and Ferrari, they're great cars, but there's just something a little bit more dull about them, if I can use that term. When you get in one of these, I mean, I'd say to you, if you've driven Porsches and Ferraris and you haven't tried a McLaren, give it a go, because the fun factor in a McLaren is a different league, I think, to those guys. There's just something about them, the way they handle, the way they sound, the way they just tuck into the corners. It's phenomenal. And I guess if you speak to anyone about McLaren, the first thing they'll say is, yeah, well, what about the reliability, mate? So, what would you say to them about reliability?
Well, I don't know if I've just been lucky, but I'm lucky in the sense that I've owned McLarens over the last 8 years and had a number of different McLarens, and I've never had any of them miss a beat.
Yeah.
And this is no different. It's just been absolutely mega.
Yeah, same with mine as well. I mean, it just does everything that you ask it to do. It's been mechanically very reliable, and I'd say own one. I'd put my things on the line there. Got to keep it polite for camera, but say give it a go. For sure, there's always going to be cars out there that have issues, but not just with McLaren, with any brand.
Absolutely,
right?
any mark
has their challenges, right? But the probability of you getting one of those that does have a few challenges is pretty low. Everyone I speak to, everyone on the owners forum, everyone in the club has had a great experience. So give it a go. Just give it a go. That's all I'd say. Right, walk around of the car and really focusing on what makes this different to your bog standard piece of dirt 570S.
Well, they're not a piece of dirt.
No, they're damn fine cars, yeah.
Brilliant cars.
Brilliant cars, awesome. So, I think here, obvious, the amount of carbon fibre on the thing, right? Pretty much every panel I can see has carbon fibre on it somewhere. So, these fins here as well, right?
The dive planes.
So these are called dive planes?
Yep. So these give extra downforce, hence that's why you've got them on the side there, so it's giving you a lot more front end grip. You'll notice the front splitter is completely different to your 570.
It is.
And again, you've got larger air intakes, you've got a bigger area at the front of the front splitter, which gives you, again, more downforce. And of course the 620, where it fundamentally differs from any sports series car out there. You mentioned it's the ultimate of the sports series.
Yep.
I think that's a brilliant description, because it was the final run out for McLaren of the current sports series as it was. So what they wanted to produce was the ultimate final edition. So at the front here you can see it harps to the GT4 race car.
Gotcha,
and
yeah.
in fact the whole DNA of this car is based on the McLaren GT4 race car, which is completely different from the 570 to begin with.
Right.
So you've got a wider track, which again can give you better handling, more nimble, more downforce. You can see the nostrils on the bonnet here. So coming through the front splitter, it's driving the air through the front splitter, up through the bonnet nostrils and onto the windscreen. And again, that can add about another 65 kilos of front end downforce.
Wow.
Which means your cornering, of course, is a lot better and a lot more stable.
So you've got, I mean, these aren't for show, are they? As you just said there, right? These
No, they're
these
not for show.
nostrils.
Absolutely.
So can we pop that and have a look at the inside bit?
Absolutely. So again, lightweight bonnet.
So
everything's carbon fibre, as you can see.
These are very much real. You do not have these in my 570S for sure. So the front end, obviously, it's a race car as well, and for race cars, you've got to have the ability to be towed out the gravel, which is why you've got one of these. Hopefully, you're not in the gravel too much.
I was going to say, let's hope not.
And I see a little camera. The front there.
Yeah, so the 620R comes as standard with the full McLaren track telemetry system, which gives you the ability to record front and rear. So that's the front camera for when you're on track. There are internal cameras as well, and that's an automatic part of the 620R. You can have that as an addition with some of the other sports models and indeed the super sports models, but for the 620 being the ultimate final edition, it was part of the standard pack.
Gotcha. All right. So moving around the side of the car, we have these vents here, which of course is my favourite feature. You don't get them on the standard 570S. You do get them on the new Artura, and you obviously also get them on this. What's this vent here all about, Steve?
It's to let the air pressure out from the wheel area, so that when you're at speed and it builds up pressure inside the wheel arch, it's to let that pressure out, which again gives you better handling, better downforce. And you'll notice actually when we're at the front of the car, the whole front of the car looks lower. In fact, the whole car is lower than the 570, and there's a slightly different rake from rear to front as well, which again is all designed to give you better handling, more downforce, more grip.
Okay, great. And then round the side of the car, definitely more carbon fibre going on, but no real variance here to the normal 570S, I would say. Scoops are the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this particular edition just has pretty much everything you can have as carbon fibre.
And then some. Right, this thing here we got to talk about, because this is very different. Right, we go to the roof here of this pure carbon fibre roof, which looks absolutely amazing, I have to say. And then of course this giant bird catcher on the front here, air scoop, and it's not just for show, is it? If you look into the rear of the car, it's absolutely doing things.
Yeah, correct. So this is the additional R pack that McLaren offered with the 620. So you can have it with or without the roof scoop. If you elect to have the roof scoop, it comes in carbon fibre as standard. And as you say, it's functional, it's not just for looks. So it's driving the air in through the scoop and down into the engine bay, which is having an effect on compression and also engine cooling in particular. Also, as you've experienced for yourself, it gives you some fantastic sounds inside the car as well.
It does. The one thing I've noticed is the turbo noise in this car is at another level.
Totally.
Compared to the 570, which I love. Because if you've got a turbo, you know, the engineering principle of Germany, I think, is if you've got a turbocharged car, you don't want to be able to hear it. You know, it wants to be like an NA car. But if you've got a turbocharged car, in my book, you absolutely want to hear it.
And you properly can, and the roof scoop just adds another dimension. I think you were talking earlier about the sort of connection with cars on the road and the viscerality of it. Well, that roof scoop just adds a totally new dimension, doesn't it?
It's mad, isn't it? Absolutely.
So the turbo boost is different, and the map for the turbo is completely different to the 570 as well. And that again just is enhancing the whole driver experience, both internally as well as the performance.
Yeah, phenomenal. And then the rear wing, which is, I guess you could say, significant in stature, very present, pretty obvious.
Yeah, and again, because this is based on the GT4 race car, it's a very similar profile to the rear wing on the GT4 race car. Of course, it has to have a third brake light in the middle of it. That's one of the additions for road homologation to make this a road legal car. And again, with the race DNA that McLaren have, this has got 3 different positions that you can put it into. So if you put it on full downforce attack mode, you'll get an extra 185 kilos worth of downforce.
Wow.
Obviously there's a compromise because you'll get drag from that too.
Yeah, yeah.
But it doesn't seem to affect the performance. It'll still get you to 124 miles an hour in tiny smidge over 8 seconds dead.
Which is quick enough.
It's not bad, yeah. Less than 3 seconds, 2.9 seconds to 62.
Yeah, that's insane, isn't it?
It is.
And wheels, what do we have here? Are they magnesium? Anything fancy like that, or?
No, but I mean they are fancier in the sense that this has single lock, single nut wheels.
It does centre locking, yeah?
Absolutely, centre locks. And part of the purpose of that is this is the first ever road legal road car that was made and designed to be able to put slick tyres on. So Pirelli worked with McLaren to design a slick tyre specifically for 19-inch front wheels, 20-inch rear wheels, and with the centre lockers, of course, you can just whiz your road set off, pop the slicks on, and away you go. And the profile of the slicks are some 8% wider, so your contact patch with the road or the racetrack is that much wider.
Gotcha.
And it gives you a significant amount more lateral grip. Probably on an average racetrack give you an extra 2-3 seconds a lap.
Which is impressive, right? And these tyres, definitely well used because you like a track day, which is all good, because that's exactly what this car is meant to be for. We should also talk about the wording on this spoiler here, 620R, but I'm not sure it's the right way round. I would expect it to be facing the other way, but you do see this on the likes of Porsches as well. And I think Steve has mentioned, which makes sense to me, is so that when you're photographing the car from the front, which you're probably more likely to do, that you can read this the right way out. But as you can see from the lettering here, it is absolutely and most definitely a 620R. There is no mistaking that, right? And then round to the rear. So the exhaust pipes, same layout as the 570, down here, again, right and left.
Again, Andy, based on the GT4 race car.
Yep. Absolutely, and I prefer the pipes here, if I'm honest. Now there is the 600, which is also a Sports Series car, which has the exhaust up here, you'll note, which is renowned for shooting flames. Very cool, but I just prefer the aesthetics of the exhaust down here, and I prefer the shape of them as well. I think the way they've just sort of tapered in to each corner just really sits nicely with the car and the rear diffuser there.
Yeah, it's just neat, isn't it?
It's just neat, absolutely.
It works, and of course with the massive rear wing on the back as well, it makes much more sense to have the cleaner lines at the rear with the MSO Nano titanium exhaust system that you got here, which gives it a phenomenal sound, quite honestly.
It does. And
that particular system is supposed to, I don't know if it's true, but it's supposed to give an extra few horsepower as well.
I'm sure it does.
Nice belt ties.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's wow, it's a level above the 570, isn't it? Wonderful. Yeah.
Try and get some look in the tyres first.
Yeah, sure.
Before we push it too hard.
Yeah, the acceleration is just a notch up from the 570, but still compliant as well, which is nice. Circuit this, right? Lovely. Okay, that is it for this one. Really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Awesome car, I'm sure you'll agree, right? And if you do see another one out and about, well done. They're incredibly rare. So huge thanks to the driver as well, Steve. Don't forget to check out his website. If you want any driver tuition at Millbrook, hook him up. It is absolutely worthwhile. I can thoroughly recommend it. Apart from that, see you soon. Bye for now.